I normally hate list videos as someone always thinks magically you should know exactly what they like. But I gotta say, I've started to enjoy the hell out of these each month. And November is probably one of the best ones. We have indies, double A's, triple A's, remakes. We have so many. I have an honorable mentions section. I could use your help as I don't do sponsors. I don't engage in fancy Disney trips. Your thumbs up, patron joins, YouTuber memberships, they're all helpful, as are your comments. So sound off in the comments section. First up, Metal Gear Solid, Delta, Snake Eater. Yeah, and I do right now feel that this date or this month is as soft as many of the enemy snake fights, but let's just go for it here. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is a complete remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, offering a new generation of players, or big fans of Snake, the chance to experience some of the best missions in the Metal Gear universe, but with also the latest visual and gameplay enhancements and advancements. That means, unlike Until Dawn's remake or remaster, this one will actually be better than the source material. Launching on November 20th, 2024, this game is reimagining the Cold War era journey that shaped Snake's transformation into Big Boss. It's got espionage, survival, tactical stealth in dense jungles, and of course, Kojima's batshit storytelling in full effect. The game's set in 1964, before you were even a glimmer in your daddy's eyes, during the height of the Cold War, as I said before, and you're racing to rescue a defected Russian scientist and taking out the man chasing him down. Snake becomes entangled in all kinds of webs of political intrigue and betrayal, pretty much a Kojima standard. Being a sneaky son of a bitch is the core here of the Metal Gear Solid games, and is back in Delta. Luckily, it has some refined mechanics that improve on the original's controls, which makes sense, because when this game came out, physical media was a thing, and Todd Howard was on his first leather jacket. Navigating enemy patrols, avoiding surveillance, and using an enhanced camouflage system are essential to success here, with the improvements in the quality of life actually tied into just using those as well as hot tabbing them. Just like every Metal Gear, it's always a choice between going in quiet and going in loud. Going in guns blazing, you have to prepare to face enemies that have no problem trying to see if they can add 50 pounds of lean mass in the form of lead to your ass. Or you can go in with hand-to-hand and close quarter combat, which include silent takedowns and interrogations. Now, while a majority of the game remains the same, some changes have occurred, as I said before. For instance, it has improved AI, they say, and it hopefully will make some enemy behaviors more dynamic and unpredictable in this game. It's a complete rewrite in terms of the way the AI handles the work, but the results should, at least to players of the original game, feel somewhat familiar, or at least natural. And you still have a great deal of customization, including all your weapons and tools like explosives and radios for intercepting enemy communications. The game looks phenomenal, though it was no slouch originally, and much of that has to do with the backgrounds and the locations. Dense, hostile jungle, landscapes filled with all kinds of wildlife that can be hunted for food, which is a necessity to maintain Snake's life and stamina, because you can't take down enemies if you look like Tom Hanks in Castaway after getting picked up for rescue. There's also a real-time weather system here that impacts visibility, enemy behavior, requiring you to adapt to strategies or just to the changing conditions as they move around differently. Whether crawling through mud, climbing trees, or hiding in the shadows, managing camouflage and Snake's physical condition is going to be essential for success. This is one of those original survival games. They've also remastered the audio as well. Now, in addition to the main story, the game offers some optional side missions and some hidden collectibles to reward exploration. Preview events have pointed out that this is almost one-for-one a translation of the original game, with an eye towards delivering it into the future with some quality of life, as I said before, including the third-person camera. In the wake of Silent Hill 2 and its success, it's interesting but not necessarily surprising this was the way they went. Kojima's obviously already making Pizza Delivery Man 2, and the already enticing OD for Xbox, which we know approximately nothing about other than it's a game like no other, which is a typical thing that Kojima always says. But it's the opposite for Delta. It's something that we exactly expect. So even with him not there, it looks like it's actually in good hands. Quality of life changes like quick select I talked about earlier, for choices for camo systems and changes to the radio, that'll all just make it feel sleeker. You know, it's pretty crazy when previewers mention that one of the best elements of the newness of a game, though, is collecting rubber ducks. So that'll be something that we have to see, is there enough there to bring back old fans? I think absolutely there will be, just due to the nostalgia itself. The best improvement is, of course, the engine, which is based on Unreal Engine 5, an engine that more companies, including Halo, are moving to. The changes to the graphics are noticeably improved to the point of not really looking like Metal Gear at times, which some may say is going to remove a little bit of that originality. I don't think so. From what I've seen, this looks to nail it. Another game that looks to nail the look of a game and repeat the success prior is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. This is November 19th for the Xbox and PC. Just like most simulators, there's something satisfying about doing something in a game that you would never want to do in real life, but possibly could. MS Flight Sims have been blowing that particular horn for so long they probably all died of COPD years ago. But here comes Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 to remind you that drinking and flying is an awesome plan to have fun in a game. For players on PC and Xbox Series X, it looks to keep the old bird aloft by building on pretty much everything that 2020 offered, but somehow with more realism, a larger, more detailed world, and much more. They've improved the graphics, they've made the download even smaller, they've improved dynamic weather, they have more detailed craft, and they added a career mode for people who want to get past their first failed flight and think, you know what, God damn it, let's kill 200 passengers again. Hands down, the most noticeable leap is in the ground locations and improvement, which I'll cover in a second. Just like the original game, of course, you have free flight, where you can pretty much just go anywhere. But Flight Sim 2024's biggest ad, and I'm probably going to say that a couple times, one that got me excited the moment I saw the trailer, was aviation careers, because nothing speaks to me more than a failed piloting career. And if my past with prior games says anything, it says, do not let this SOB fly a plane, let alone in modes that have career pathing and advancement. And so I cannot wait to do that. You have career activities ranging from aerial firefighting, search and rescue, medevac operations. You got your remote cargo transport, so you can drop jugs, magazine pamphlets on North Korea. Hell, maybe even run some drugs into the Everglades. Who knows? But you even have airline passenger services. As you complete these missions, you gain experience, you build your reputation. They also unlock access to more aviation activities and more powerful planes, going from small aircraft to passenger transport planes. The game's setup offers pretty much unlimited missions as well. You can also compete against others in challenge league modes, testing your skills through precision landing and low altitude challenges and some rally races. If you want to be the aerial Travis Pastrana, you can also do some Red Bull races, Reno Air races, and there's some new Roswell courses, bringing some competitiveness back to it. But free flight mode isn't going anywhere, and add to that, you have a photography challenge mode here and missions as well as you travel around Earth. You capture landmarks, probably from dangerously close, if my flying career has anything to say about it. You can also have them woven into the gameplay, so players can both learn how to fly well as try to figure out their artistic eye, recording your adventures in your own traveling book. The new physics system that is in the game has made some huge adjustments in the last couple of years. More than 10,000 rigid body surfaces are now here to recreate the behavior of pretty much any aircraft in the game, so there's some improvements there. Soft body physics introduced for modeling cloth and ropes and balloons, while improved ground water handling mechanics ensure that when you take off or you land, it's just as bumpy as you would expect. Think of the sensing and testing of tracks in premier racing games, and you're pretty much halfway there. They've also improved the flight planner with all kinds of new tools, which enable you to make flights anywhere, and you have a bit more precision there. Supposedly in 2024, it's also going to offer the most accurate recreation of Earth ever built for a simulator, but I feel like the only real competitor is their prior game and Google Earth. When it comes to pure numbers, they've improved a great deal. Not only do they have photogrammetry for like 100,000 square kilometers, they have 500 crafted cities, but they also have 150 airports, 2,000 glider fields, 10,000 heliports, 2,000 points of interest, and 900 oil fields. Then they have the procedural system that generates the other 40,000 airports, 80,000 helipads, 1.5 billion buildings, and 3 trillion trees. But that's not all. If you've ever tried to do something in a video game and realized there was a gap in your life because you couldn't do a random thing that had no connection, this game sort of got you covered. Somehow, someone out there wanted to walk around in Flight Sim, and so they added the ability for players that they can land anywhere and exit and just explore the landscape fully on foot, filled with seasonal changes, regional vegetation, and dynamic environments that you really won't see if you're ever flying. Grass, rocks, and flowers all respond to seasonal shifts as well. And we all know we're going to get the old I walked 240,000 hours in Flight Sim and here's what happened videos. And just in case you end up somewhere with a wild buffalo that can attack you, they've made improvements to land-based wildlife roaming situations as well, something that the developer in the past had stated they weren't necessarily happy with it in the original game. They've also increased the land traffic when it comes to little people running around. They've even showed some pictures of that. They look pretty good for a game that is called Flight Simulator, but for whatever reason, they also want you trolling around, maybe, stalking people. I don't know. Well, the game's launching on November 19th. I envision a huge number of players not even getting off the ground successfully until like November 20th. All kidding aside, I love the original game. Everything about the new game looks to have improved it. And another game that looks like it's improved from the original is Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. This is November 20th. It's PC and Xbox. Somewhere there is a joke in here that everyone trying to find as much Stalker 2 information as they can isn't some kind of metagame involving the title's name. But while it feels like it's been forever, it looks like that's going to change. Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl is finally going to launch on November 20th, bringing the series back. I almost feel like I don't want to say that date, and they'll change the date again. But Stalker 2 is the sequel from GSC that finally plunges players back into Chernobyl and the exclusion zone, and this unpredictable, deadly open world. It's got mutants, anomalies, rival factions, and apparently some mystical power that makes your guns jam like 30 times in 12 minutes. You're once again a lone stalker in it. It's one of the larger open worlds to date as well. The zone spans about 64 square kilometers of Angry, a raging insect hive of scum and villainy and anomalies and radiation, and as I said, jamming guns. Stalker's always been a first-person shooter. It's got that immersive sim and survival horror element to it, smashed together in a sexy-ass peanut butter chocolate and hot sex sandwich. And the sequel, from what we've seen, is tried and true GSC and what they've said they wanted to do. A massive, non-linear world that allows players to shape the outcome of the journey through all the choices and consequences that they have, and just do whatever they want in the world. One huge bonus here, and you're going to hear it as we go forward in all of these months, is that Stalker 2's also made the switch to Unreal 5. The developers have said that Stalker 2's world would be even more dangerous and reactive, and Unreal has helped them do that thanks to rebuilding and revisiting and revising their A-Life 2.0 system. This is the name for their system that runs the world as you explore and battle, supposedly creating a pretty dynamic ecosystem where players' choices affect the environment and narrative outcomes, and just the way the game feels. Your actions can determine who becomes your ally or enemy among all these various different factions, influencing the course of your journey, as well as the experiences and battles, and who comes after you or who runs away from you. That means friends are enemies, enemies are friends, and monsters are just giant digestive tracts waiting to turn you into tonight's food and tomorrow's bowel movements. You have groups you can befriend, you can do jobs for, but as with all these games, no one is not out for themselves, so be prepared for Stalker's unique mix of intrigue and human-based danger. But a lot of that danger isn't in that moment-to-moment severe action kind of gameplay, because don't forget, this is a survival game as well. Players are going to have to monitor radiation levels, manage different ammunitions, ration food and medicine and other essentials, and it's requiring you to consistently be on the lookout for scavenging opportunities. There really is nothing like a game that makes finding a Campbell's soup can in someone's leather boot a huge successful moment. And they've also stated that there's over 30 weapons with all kinds of modifications, allowing for different unique combat combinations. It feels like Stalker 2 has all the makings of being just this weird, wonderful, ultimately rewarding as hell as the original game kind of survival shooter. Hopefully, without as many technical issues. The previews have been fairly positive, and there were some previews released this week, and it seems like it's well on its way. November 20th, we'll get to see. This is a game that's been delayed a ton of times for many reasons, all of them good. I don't expect a delay this deep, obviously, in the game's release schedule. That was just a joke. The last previews, hands-on, all indicated that they're very close to the finish line and right within the moment of pretty much going gold. So I would say the chances of it delaying are about the same chances of a Stalker not dying on their first run, which is 25-75. Speaking of 25, the next game coming up is Farming Simulator 25, also on November 12th, as well as some other games here. Yeah, I've said it before. Listen, the simulator genre is exploding, one of the largest growth segments in gaming, even after its initial boom prior to the shutdown. Farming Sim 2013 sold like 600,000 copies, and by 22, we were at 4 million. Someone, or many someones, out there like these kind of games. Perhaps it's all the people signed up for farmersonly.com. But honestly, while you may think, what the hell, why would anybody want to do this? It is true, though, that competence porn is a thing. And seeing someone genuinely learn and improve and go out there, barely get a crop in and low yield, and then the next one do an excellent crop, have the newest equipment, and rake in the dough is like watching someone build an amazing factory and satisfactory. And it's 100% more sheep in this game. Available on the Xbox Series X, PC, and PlayStation 5, This is going to expand on all of the experiences with the prior game. You've got better visuals, mechanics, and more opportunities. For example, the game's got new crops like rice, which brings that total up to 25, I think. It also has new places for you, like new locations, including East Asian farms. And it also has a new sprawling North American farmstead and a Central European region filled with rivers and ponds. And because each location has a different setup, soil type, and weather type, you're going to have to balance it all to bring the crops in and do everything right. Now, Zen games have also involved breeding a lot of times like a realistic Pokemon, but hopefully with less hands-on. And in this case, it actually seems pretty awesome. It's also got buffalo and goats. I don't know why they thought adding two of the crankiest sons of bitches in the animal kingdom at once was a good idea, but here we are. Of course, the game also has cows and sheep and pigs, chickens, and the original animals. They all remain, as well as new types of equipment and vehicles, and greenhouse vegetables and forestry. So there's a lot of depth to this increase. Unlike, say, NFL 2K whatever the fuck, where the game is basically just a new roster update each year, like dogs returning to their vomit, Farming Simulator's going all out. And you can notice that just when you look at the Farming Simulator series and how many vehicles this one will have. I think it's 400, so basically a Forza worth of vehicles, as well as 150 tools, all from John Deere, New Holland, Ferguson, and so on. The game also adds production chains and construction missions, which should expand the scope of what you need to do. You can build shops, customize production facilities, manage all of the construction on your land. You also have weather effects such as hailstorms and twisters, so players are going to consistently have to worry about all kinds of stuff. Now, the game's still running on Giant's engine, now at version 10, and of course, you have user-created content from the in-game HUD. When it comes to multiplayer, Farm & Sim lets you build farms together across platforms. You also have sandbox and franchise modes, which are going to be out there for you to have the ability to visit and explore other players' farms in first-person mode as well. Now, all jokes about midnight visits to another farmer's sheep farm aside, I do love how much freedom the Sims games are offering. I love my Zen games in many forms, and my last time with Farming Sim was surprisingly fun. It didn't make me want to get up at 4 a.m., have some jarred beef tongue, and go burr some cows in the back 40, but I did love crashing that John Deere tractor all over the place. Launching again on November 12th. This one looks to be awesome. Another surprising title here, and still looks to be cool, though it's not necessarily everybody's genre, is Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake. November 14th, all platforms. Yes, that is a mouthful for a game title. First off, I know that Dragon Quest may not appeal to some people, but with the advent of titles like Octopath Traveler, these have their place in a larger audience than perhaps it did in the past. It's a remake launching on all the platforms as well, which I think will let it see as much success as possible. It's close to, say, Octopath Traveler in how it looks and how it's presented, so if you've seen that game and you like it, this one might appeal to you. Just like the original game, players are going to step into the shoes of Ortega's child, tasked with finishing the quest their father failed, which is defeating the Archfiend and saving the world from destruction. I still dig this kind of quest idea versus being exactly the chosen one all the time, or at least at the starting. You're basically going and following in the footsteps of your dad, who sucks. The game hasn't changed up its battle system either, still locked into the tried and true turn-based battle system, but it does have some advancements and modern touches like adjusting the battle speed, and it also adds an auto battle option for fighting the game's consistently Congo line of enemies that step up to face you, even though after about 100 of them, there should be legends told about you and passed down to every damned bandit in the world. HD also introduces a new class called the Monster Wrangler. This is a brand new job class that seems to allow players to harness monster-inspired abilities from different game world enemies. It's nice to see remakes adding in a new class like this, which changes up and makes it a little bit easier for, let's say, an older fan to return to it. Exploration is always going to be the central point of Dragon Quest games. Players journey across this huge world, filled with all the classic tropes you can expect. One thing that's nice is they seem to have cleaned up the user interface, going a long way to streamline menus and mechanics, which is something that you don't always expect. So I'm happy to see this one hitting on all platforms, and I'm actually excited to check it out. The next one coming out is LEGO Horizon Adventures, November 14th on PlayStation PC, and this says Switch. Who asked for this? That's a question always given for odd combinations. Hell, it's even just given for any game a gamer slightly thinks looks bad, and so they decide to try to call it into question. But originally when LEGO Horizon Adventures was announced, I think I did mouth those words to myself. I mean, it is an odd choice. However, the more I see it, the more I hear about it, starting to see, at least for fans of the two IPs, a reason that doesn't just involve instant money grabs, shallow IP arranged marriages like a bride delivered in an ox cart and married to some old rich dude. And for clarity, Horizon would be the bride and Lego would be the old rich dude. Don't think anybody needed that described to them, but just in case. The game's a fusion of Horizon and its universe and Lego. And so you've got this futuristic world with these neon dinosaur-like machines of Horizon and the goofy special skill carrying almost limitlessly optimistic dudes from Lego. The story in this game is that Aloy, skilled hunter, sets out on a quest to stop an evil digital threat from coming into the world. Along the way, she has to confront Hellas, the leader of a gang of sun-worshipping zealots prepared to eliminate shade and burn everything under the endless sun. That's right, in a game here, you're fighting a dude who doesn't like shadows. So basically, he's that one friend who always loved a mountain bike in the center of the road in the sun versus in some nice forest somewhere. Lego Horizon Adventures takes place in and around Mother's Heart, which is the tribe's main settlement, and serves as a hub. Now, the first thing you see here in the trailers is just how much of the neon-soaked dinosaur ideal from the original game is actually translated pretty well into plastic, made for sale to children on Amazon Prime Day look of the Legos themselves. And I have to admit, I think looks pretty good graphically. I assume most older players will pass on this one unless they love kids or love Lego or love fun. You can go it alone, you can team up with other people, there's online play as well as couch co-op, both having you unlock and get additional characters along the way from the main game as well as some special ones. And as past Legos have always had each character have a unique skill, that means some of them can help you get past some obstacle or find some secret or defeat some bad guy faster. But here in Horizon, I do love one thing, and that's that you can customize the entire town with Lego buildings and decorations. We'll just have to see how that plays out, but I like the look of it. The developers have gone out of their way to make sure that while it is a Lego game, it's also very much delivering a Horizon experience, which means climbing tall necks, deep diving into the cauldrons, and uncovering hidden secrets scattered around the world. If that ends up playing out well, that could be quite interesting. While the collaboration between Lego and Horizon, to me at least, was really unexpected, I do feel that it reflects a little bit of Sony's growing openness to experimentation with their franchise, as they've done with different platforms and, of course, moving to the PC. Whether Lego Adventures can achieve the same excellence as those past Lego games remains to be seen, but the combination of familiar characters, an IP, again, as we know, being brought in, and humor makes this a little bit more exciting. Next up, Planet Coaster 2, November 6th for everything but the Switch. It's finally time for you to put terrible coasters and watch all of your riders fly off of them because they're poorly constructed, death-dealing machines. And that's Planet Coaster 2. I'm excited for this one. Planet Coaster 2 is supposedly building on everything that you liked about the original. Well, if you did, if you spent hours perfecting parks in the original game, you'll be glad to know there are some different systems that are rebuilt, a lot of it based on the feedback of players. Laying down paths is no longer a hassle. It's done with a drawing tool that makes designing layouts a bit smoother. You have scenery building tools that have been leveled up, sort of fixed on their own. You'll also be able to use those enhanced tools to build the park exactly the way you want. You can reshape the terrain as you expect, design all these different sprawling locations, and put your rides into it. Now you can also build pools, rivers, and water slides to put it all together. They've also added in something called the Event Sequencer, and with this tool you can plan park shows and all kinds of animatronic displays, sort of like an event at Disney every night. And of course, as I said, building coasters, if it's not enough, you can put your water park up there as well. When it comes down to it, honestly, I just look forward to throwing like 3 times more chlorine in the pool as needed and watching the kids leaping out with red eyes like they have the rage virus. They've also improved your tracking. They've got a new heat map system to see exactly where little Bobby had to run away from some creepy dude by the pool, or which cotton candy stand is doing really well, so you can only assume someone's selling edibles out the back of it. But if you don't want to run all that stuff or track all that stuff, sandbox mode is here, of course, for people who don't want to worry about the hardships of running a rusty roller coaster park and showing up in some TikTok video of a ride falling over as people rush to not help. They also announced it's coming to GeForce Now, which is actually really nice, especially because this one and the prior games, and in fact, a lot of the park simulator style games can be pretty rough on system specific specifications, for example, your GPU and your CPU. They've also improved and made changes to building systems, especially with the new rides and the setups, so you can merge everything together, supposedly. And lastly, they've got some increases and improvements to managing your park, which goes beyond just building it. You'll be able to oversee staff, keep the rides in working order, handle guest complaints to make sure everything runs smoothly, which really means pay very little, don't fix shit, and ignore all the complaints. As normal. This launches again on November 6th, and for me, looks like something I'm definitely going to be playing. Next up, Metro Awakening, PC, PS5, November 7th. This is a VR game. Coming from Vertigo Games and Deep Silver, Metro Awakening is really a first-person VR adventure game that is designed from the ground up to exist very much side by side with the other Metro titles. And it has you putting on the helmet and leaping into the boots of a local doctor on a desperate mission, supposedly, to find his missing wife and secure some vital medicine she needs. I don't need an excuse to leap into this one. Hell, she could be dead already and someone could be wearing her damn skin like a cape, and I'd still want to play this. Because just like the other games, this one is set in the same claustrophobic tunnels of the Moscow Metro, humanity's last supposed refuge. You're equipped with a gas mask, some wits, and a whole lot of guns. You're going to need to survive radiation. You got mutants, and you've got eerie supernatural forces lurking everywhere. Just like that old cushion fort you built for your friend who stayed the night and broke it because he's a fool of a toque. The tunnels in Awakening are going to be your sanctuary and your prison, and you're going to have to figure out how to travel around them. And it's a nasty place, a dirty place. Radiation spills out everywhere. Mutants shift around in the dark, just waiting for a little bit of Dr. Kebab to come traipsing in. And of course, there's humans, the worst monster of all, that are thick as thieves everywhere. So you have to watch out for them, as well as explore abandoned stations, ruined tunnels, makeshift enemy footholds, and mysteriously only somewhat abandoned facilities. But it's not all grit and grime, because as you expect, Metro's got a bit of that supernatural going on, and so you have to face that as well. We'll just have to see what form that takes. Now, yes, this is VR, and I know what you're thinking, that the 12 people with working PSVR 2s that still think it's a viable platform, and the people on PC who have VR getting a new Metro game and Pancake gamers aren't. Actually, I have nothing to add to that because it's the truth. I just wanted to say it out loud so you guys could hear how mean it sounds, because there is no Pancake version of this yet. But since it is VR, it means every enemy that flits past you under that dimming glimmer of your flashlight, every creaking sound, every metal fatigue groan is probably going to work to scare the ever-living shit out of everybody. So add horror to the list of genre tags that this one can get. Whatever it ends up being, though, physically interacting with your mask and the guns, reloading, unjamming, using tools, unbreaking broken stuff, and probably turning a shit ton of valves is probably going to be really fun, and it's for sure going to be in your future if you get it. But like Stalker before it, a lot of Metro gameplay is about picking everything up like someone's trying to hide P. Diddy evidence, so collecting everything and using it later or trying to figure out how to do so is also a name of the game. You're going to be grabbing ammo, light sources, air filters, and so forth. But they've also stated that the game is going to have a ton of stealth. They've stated that many encounters can be slicked past without a shot fired if you're Garrett Sneakin' or Solid Snake Crafty. So why waste that bucket of loot by throwing it at an enemy's head and instead just sneak past them? All jokes aside, I'm hell-bent on being excited for this new built-up from the ground VR game. And yes, it's exclusively for VR right now, but it does look awesome. Vertigo's worked directly with 4A Games to share assets and models to the development for this game as well. Also, the main character looks to be fully voiced, so we'll have to see how that goes. Personally, I love that idea because usually you can turn it off if you don't like it. November 7th, this comes out, followed later by Stalker. It's odd, cool, creepy, and a bit fitting that after so long we get both a Metro and Stalker game and a release in the same month. It's like someone randomly found them both in their inventory and decided, oh yeah, time to use these. But we aren't even close to done. Next up is Mario and Luigi Brothership. This is on the Switch on the 7th, and of course it's made by, you guessed it, Nintendo. Well, there's a little bit there I'll talk about in a second. Mario and Luigi Brothership takes you on this massive 3D role-playing game with the brothers' mustache. In Brothership, after the magical tree that held the world together was destroyed, your job is to reconnect all these scattered islands to restore the magic that seeped out when the land split. So it's the brother Big Hat's next adventures. You explore each island, you rebuild, find new areas, take on quests, and learn new abilities in your goal of bringing this entire place back together. Now, Shipshape Island, which is your ship and main base, plays a central role in the adventure. And yes, I said it's both things. It serves both as transportation and a place to actually plan journeys, gear up for battles, and unlock side quests, which is something I don't think I've seen before in a game. Sailing aboard the island, you're going to explore open seas, navigate to islands, reefs, and hidden islets using this ocean map that they've got. Of course, each island is going to be its own unique environment. You got your tropical jungle over here, a big city over here, mountains over here. You get the idea. It's basically the first 3 movies of Star Wars in game form, as we've seen many times. But to me, it's the gameplay chops we've been seeing in some of the previews and told about for the challenges and puzzles and encounters that look damn good, especially because they said it's an open island chain kind of game world, meaning the order in which you explore the islands is going to be pretty much up to you, but they did warn some areas are unlocked only after you reconnect others. As you complete quests and uncover hidden paths, new side quests and secrets are going to be available to you. So there's going to be an open world feel to it, but there is going to be a couple places that obviously you need a skill or have progressed the story a certain amount before you can unlock it. But no matter what, with all that moving around, they made some changes here. You use a cannon to launch to different locations, but then the brother moveset allows for the 2 of them to combine abilities to clear objects, and Luigi able to go around on his own, like break objects or trigger environmental effects. This makes movement, I think, a lot smoother, traversal a damn sight easier, and the whole thing just more modern feeling. The combat system here builds on the series mechanics, but it does add some depth with this new plug system. Plugs sort of go with the electrical theme of the game. It offers upgrades that affect battles by altering stats and abilities. Some plugs are very powerful, like increasing damage, while there's guaranteed critical hits, giving you the freedom to sort of adjust your combat strategy as you play. As you unlock more islands and progress, you'll gain more abilities. This was originally created by Alpha Dream, but they went bankrupt around 2019, and Nintendo put their own team together, including some of those ex-members, to build this game. The thing I always say about Nintendo games, especially their Prime series, is that they usually look amazing and play very well. Brothership's design is a bit of a mix between many of their titles, but for the Switch, it looks pretty fantastic. And since they platinumed 2023 to the point where most other game companies probably thought it involved fucking time travel, I have high hopes for this game as well. Next up, Slitterhead, November 8th, for everything but the Switch. I think when everyone saw this at the event shows, they thought to themselves, okay, that's either going to be amazing and creepy, or this thing is going to make Concord look like a damned success in comparison. Slitterhead's a third-person horror game. It unfolds in this neon-soaked street of a fictional city called Kowloon, inspired by the 1990s Hong Kong and claustrophobic atmosphere of Kowloon's walled city, all merged into one, with a ton of imagery and styling, and some real outright homages to the director Wong Kar-wai. A long-loving nod to him as well, especially when you look at some of the designs and color work. Now, in Slitterhead, you control a character who's got no memory or physical form, tasked with eradicating these Slitterhead creatures. They're nasty-ass monstrosities that ride humans around like skin motorbikes, hiding inside of them. And you've got to explore, you've got to do some combat, some stealth. Though it's dense-looking in its environments, it is not necessarily fully open world, fully open cityscape, fully open city block, maybe is what we'll call it. And the main mechanic to move around is a possession mechanic, which allows you to slip into different bodies, solve puzzles, and move around. It's like Watch Dogs Legion, the Exorcist edition. Navigating through the street isn't just about combat or stealth, as I said before. It's also about forging alliances with these leaders in the game world called rarities, and also infiltrating criminal organizations while piecing together more about your own past and why you can't remember anything and what the hell's going on in the city. The game aims to combine some pretty eerie bits of urban decay, and to me goes really towards something like Ghostwire, but does it better. Even though they're not directly comparable, Ghostwire, while aiming for something different, felt generic at times. Slitterhead, instead, frankly, so far just doesn't, and the developers promise that not all is what it seems as well. No one knows exactly what that means, but I'm excited to check it out. Horror games don't always do it for me, but Slitterhead's weird-ass looking monsters, body-hopping gameplay has me intrigued at the very least. Of course, you know we're not done. We got one more, and that's Grinding Gear Games, November 15th, Path of Exile 2. Free to play, of course. Path of Exile 2 is basically a free-to-play action RPG from Grinding Gear Games that you would think would replace the original. But oddly enough, or at least in this space, Path of Exile 2 is going to run right along with the original game. It's got its own distinct systems and keystone gameplay elements. This is your typical Diablo-style action RPG, but with a ton more to it. Path of Exile 2 is going to have a brand new campaign. It's got 6 acts. It's got 100 distinct environments, supposedly 600 monsters, and over 100 bosses. Path of Exile 2 is going to have 12 character classes, 2 for every combination of strength, dexterity, and intelligence that you can decide to choose to play as. And they all have class variants focused on different playstyles. You can also combine skills from a lot of the different classes together to create your own character build. Now, this is early access, which, again, I normally don't cover. I've covered it once or twice in this video. Path of Exile 2 is a massive game. I think they've got over 1,500 skills that are going to allow you to just really outfit your character. This is something that the original game was known for, is just a ton of different skills that you can put together. They've got amazing changes, but you're going to really need to watch a separate video for that, because Path of Exile 2 is one of the larger games in this entire list of games that we're going through. They've got like 700 equipment base types. Every single one has unique items to find. So there is a ton in this game. If you like these type of titles, free to play, can't beat it. Also, the idea, once again, that this is running right alongside with the original is very cool. Those are the main ones. Let's go to the honorable mentions. These are ones that maybe aren't on your radar, but are really cool to me. The first is Rise of the Golden Idol. This is by Color Gray Games. Now, Rise of the Golden Idol, it's a 2D point-and-click detective game as you try to figure out these complex cases. There's 20 of them, all, of course, about crime, death, and depravity. A great deal like the original game. The sheer freedom of investigation and the roam-about kind of gameplay shines through here. You should check out their original game. And this game really does entice you to explore every detail, piece together clues, construct your own theories, make sense of all the reasons for the motives, tangents, and mysteries that you're presented with, and then try to make it all make sense at the end. A great thing about their games is their sense of odd style. Golden Idol is set in a world of, like I said, the 1970s, and everything from that time is sort of brought forward. Drugs, fax machines, parapsychology, hippies, pop culture. Every character within it sort of reflects that. Enlightenment seekers, convicts, TV chat show hosts, and corporate managers all have this feel of the 1970s, but they also are all tied intrinsically in some way to the motives and secrets of whatever crime you're investigating. Some may have an agenda tied to ambitions, other may be harboring dark secrets. At least that's what the Steam read says. And speaking of that, the original game reviewed insanely well there, and the clue and answer system for solving murders works so goddamn good. I wish more games did it something like that. It's like a fill-in ad-lib or clue systems generator, except it actually works better than I've seen in a lot of other titles. Next up, Chicken Police Into the Hive, November 7th by The Wild Gentleman. Old style comics and FMV chickens, sweet-ass sultry lounge singers, and crime. That's all for me. Seriously, if you want to take a look at a game that just surprises you when you see it, it's probably this one. If you're wondering what the hell Chicken Police Into the Hive is, well, I'm here to tell you it's a 2D Sin City if everyone was replaced by pissed off farm animals that had been fed a steady diet of noir films and jazz soundtracks and got stuck on repeat on Spotify. Chicken Police Into the Hive is a bit absurdist humor and a bit noir film and a bit old school 2D mystery game, all crammed together. And you play as Sonny and Marty, who have to investigate a global conspiracy, but also investigate their own pasts. The story itself is set in Clawville. This is a giant city in the wilderness, now crumbling under the weight of riots, corruption, and psychological breakdowns of everybody involved inside. The narrative kicks off with a new assignment for you guys, and their investigation leads them to the Hive. This is a ghetto populated by insects and mired in misery. If that doesn't sound like an amazing combination of things together, I don't know what does. This begins as a pretty routine investigation and spirals out of control. Each character interaction has various levels of complexity, and every conversation is sort of an opportunity to identify what personalities, traditions, and histories of Clawville's characters are like. So it's really a world exploration kind of title as well, because they have 1,000 years of history in this game that they've got prepped. Sort of like the D&D game that turned into a video game, Disco Elysium, in that way. Well, I love the delivery, the look, hell, even the trailer. The music sounds like something quirky and weird and something I expected almost from Under a Killing Moon. But the moment I heard it, I was like, that might also be for me. Who really cares? I'm going to rock that rooster big time when that game comes out. I don't know if it's going to be good, but it definitely intrigues me. And another massive game I absolutely have to talk about is Sea Power, a naval combat in the Missile Age. This is also November 2024. That's what they say. But it's also got 2025 because this is one of the only early access titles I'm going to talk about. And I wanted to do so because this is one I can get behind. It may not appeal to everybody But Sea Power, from the lead designer of Cold Waters, puts you in command of NATO and Warsaw Pact forces during the height of the Cold War. Set during the 1960s, 1980s, it offers all kinds of modern warfare, highly realistic campaigns and scenarios inspired by not only history itself, but also some fictional possibilities, with a ton of simulation. If you enjoyed Cold Waters in 2017, you're probably going to dig this game. Historically, the games in this genre tend to either excel with good graphics but confusing mechanics, or offer great gameplay and then have subpar looks. It's always a toss-up. Sea Power seems to strike a pretty perfect balance here. It has very detailed 3D graphics from what I've seen. It's got dynamic campaigns, but it also has a ton of mechanical depth to it. In Sea Power, you actually take on the form of the main commander, you position fleets, choose where to fight, recon, defend, and you track enemies, all while making sure that you do not present too big of a force, because this is a Cold War. That means fighting off jets, submarines, destroyers, and more, but not using too much power. Precision is actually key here. Misjudging a radar contact at 30,000 feet can trigger escalation and pretty much, well, nuclear war. Oddly enough, or in this case fitting enough to a damned game like this, is that you actually have to track the rules of war, and if you overreact, everything goes to shit. While the core focus is on naval operations in the North Atlantic between NATO and Warsaw, that also means really investigating and visiting some hot zones that are from history, the War of Attrition, as well as the Vietnam War, Operation Praying Mantis, and others. Each of the three theaters are different and have a different feel to them. From the North Atlantic, where NATO forces have to fight off and defend Europe from Soviet attacks while dealing with bomber raids and submarine threats. You also have the Persian Gulf, which means, of course, Iran and Iraq and that war, and trying to balance that area while not being drawn into a damned atomic war between NATO and everybody else. It's also dynamic, and their early access says that they'll have a specific number of missions, but a later release will add that dynamic operation to it. So far, the game is actually promising. It's got around 150 units across sea and air. It's got 120, 130 weapon systems. It also includes a scenario editor. And in the previews and videos, Sea Power looks pretty goddamn good on PC. It's a game that excites me because I like these kind of titles, and to be honest, Sea Power was great. So I'm really excited for this one. Guess what? That's it for me. If you guys like these, give them a thumbs up. If you dislike them, give them a thumbs up. If you want to say something in the comments, do that, but also give it a thumbs up. Shit, just give a bunch of thumbs up. Also, I'd love for you to check out being a YouTube member or go into the Patreon. And we have a podcast every Friday where we discuss more games. I'm sure there's a game I missed because this isn't called every single game released in November. So if I missed one that you wanted me to add, put that in the comments too. Peace out.